So my next guest, he an author, he a writer. You know, he do it all. I seen his page too. Actually, it was recommended to me, and I had to do some research, and it's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So we gonna chop it up, see what's up with him. You know what I'm saying? So let him introduce himself. You know what I'm saying? You gotta tell me your Instagram and your name, and we good to go.
So my name is Appiah. I am an author, a writer. I recently just released my second novel, which is titled "The Angels Are Flying So Low."
Show him the book. You got it right there.
Oh, and I got the book. I got a copy of the book right here for y'all.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna do a little bit of explaining as
we definitely are
as we progress with our interview. But this is a copy of the book available on Amazon right now.
Yeah. Okay. Dope.
And the IG is Appiah, APPIAH _.
All right. So I'll call you Will then.
Yeah, you call me Will.
All right, cool. So this is real questions and real answers. What we expect real answers when I ask the real questions. So you want to do some real answers?
Already.
All right, cool. So when's your birthday?
May 13th.
Taurus.
Mm-hmm. Taurus, yes.
Okay, Taurus. Stubborn.
I'm a bull.
You're a bull.
I'm a bull.
Okay. All right. So when's your birthday? I mean, give me a whole birthday. I'm sorry.
May 13th, 1990.
Okay, cool. Let me while I do that real quick. I have some math. 13th.
It's like my horoscope.
I got your other book over here too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's pull that up.
Yeah, let me just.
I'll grab it.
Good.
Oh damn, we got 2 10s today. Here 10 too.
What does that mean?
Life path number. Google it. Not now, but do it when you go home and stuff like that. So basically, tell us the title of your book one more time.
So my recent book is titled "The Angels Are Flying So Low."
Oh, so we're gonna talk about both. You want to talk about both of them?
Yeah, we could talk about both.
Cool. All right.
I'm gonna really talk more about the second one, but the second one essentially is the carryover from the first one.
Okay.
So we're gonna touch upon the first one a little bit also, which we got both.
So you still got Walter and
Yeah.
See, Roger been reading your book, man.
Yeah,
Roger been reading
the book.
Walter plays a different character in book 2, but he's still in.
Oh, so this is like a prequel and sequel type.
Yeah. So these 2 books are 2 of a 3-book series. So it's a trilogy, and each of the books has a different kind of viewpoint. So book 1, so the title character of book 1 is Oliver Burke. So the 3 books are made of different points in Oliver Burke's life. So the first book, can I explain it a little bit? Yeah. So the first book, essentially, we are introduced to Oliver Burke through Walter, who is like the main character. Okay. It's 24 chapters, but we don't find out about Oliver Burke until like chapter 18.
Okay.
So we get through most of the book, and Walter, who's the main protagonist, and Oliver, they have their paths intersect. But for the first 17 chapters, we only hear about Walter's story. So we hear about everything going on with Walter, the highs, the lows, the challenges, and then Oliver comes into his story when he's at a certain point in his life. So that's book 1, and then book 2, essentially, it shows how Oliver got to where he was, how Oliver became that person he was for Walter that day. So book 2 ultimately, it starts way before Walter's life because Walter is much younger than Oliver, but book 2 shows it's called "The Angels Are Flying So Low" because Oliver he wasn't the angel he was in book 1. He had to go through some challenges. So it's not a religious book, but when you think about the devil and the angels are fallen angels, it's meant to be that type of concept.
That kind of vibe.
Yeah, that type of vibe. So in book 2, Oliver, he was an orphan and he was around gangs, right after the crack epidemic in New York City. So he was exposed to the darker sides of life, and he kind of assimilated to his environment, and he ran with a street gang and he became a gangster, even though that wasn't really the person he was. But he didn't have an upbringing, he didn't have a family, so he kind of just moved on where the wind was going. And after some situations that happened, and I'm not going to talk about it because I want y'all to read it. After some situations that happened, he realized that even though he knew he wasn't in the right role, he wasn't in the right place, he didn't have any other options, and introduced the other angel, the other side. So someone came into his life, and someone saw right through that smoke screen. They saw the heart. They saw the person he was beyond the gangsterness and everything, and he they were able to write his story, the rest of his story together. So fast forward a few chapters, and the same scene that was in book 1 from Walter's point of view is in book 2, except now it's from Oliver's point of view. So like you see how Oliver is interacting. So some of the verbiage is the same, but some of the verbiage is also different because like they're both perceiving what each other is saying in a different way.
Cool. You know, first of all, you talk very confidently about your book. So, and Raji was telling me that he's really interested because he was like, "Yo, man, I'm to chapter what?"
I think I'm on 11.
Yeah,
chapter 11.
he's on
Yeah.
chapter. And I think he got the book like a couple days ago or something like that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So obviously that tells me the book must be good because us Geminis, we lose what's in the interest quick.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like
I got you a copy. If you
Yeah.
don't think you're going to read it, I'll take it back.
Nah,
I'm just kidding.
I'm going to read it. I'm
I
going
got
to
you, I
read
got
it.
you, I got
You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm just messing with you, bro. But yeah, definitely, bro. So, can you tell people like how do you even go about your way of like writing? Like, how do you get into the creative writer mode?
You know, I would say, you know, being in New York City, you know, I'm exposed to it. We're all exposed to it. We all kind of get an opportunity to see other people's stories in motion because like it's all around us. So, you know, I'm very observant. You know, I'm a watcher, a people watcher. I sit down sometimes on the train and I just observe how people...
You're not one of them creeps on the train now.
Huh?
You're not one of them people that be watching the people.
Nah.
I'm not looking through. Don't feed into me.
I'm not looking through the whatever, but, you know, I'm just watching how people are interacting with each other, and you know, fortunately, we were talking about Apple earlier. Fortunately, Apple provides notes, so all I'm doing is writing notes all day, every day, and I kind of transfer that onto like paper and pad and Word. You know, so I do a lot of reading based on what I see, and I'm able to put pieces of everyone's story into just one manuscript.
That's
so my writing style for this was I essentially wrote 3 books out. I vision boarded, you know, because I had all these ideas. So I wrote 3 books out, but I kind of like pocketed, this should be in book 1, this should be in book 2. The pace had to make sense. The alignment had to make sense also because like I couldn't talk about something in book 1 and then by the time you get to book 3 and we're talking about it again, people are like, wait, I forgot why, like, because even though you can read book 2 and then go back and read book 1, you know, if you read book 1, it's a little, I think it's a little more consistent. Because you read book 2, you kind of learn too much about Oliver. Whereas if you read book 1, you don't learn about Oliver to the end, and then you're intrigued. You're like, I want to learn more. Okay. So my writing style and my I guess my purpose with writing has always been just to bring stories to life that make sense. So like a lot of my writing is just like influential, I would say. You know, for example, The Angels Are Flying So Low, it's meant to show the 2 sides of morality. You know, sometimes good isn't always good, depending on how you're looking at it.
Perception, yeah.
And same thing with bad. So, you know, and that's the concept of, you know, the devil being a fallen angel. But it's not a religious book.
It's not a religious book.
Yeah, let me put that disclaimer.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? So, what I was going to say next, how do people get your book, though? Like, where can they get it from?
So, it's available on Amazon. Okay. Both books are available on Amazon. You can also go to my website, which is reelqanda.com, and it will take you to a link where you can purchase the book as well.
I'm pretty sure Raji got a question. You read the book, so ask him a question, Raji.
Oh, so, the character Walter. There's I feel like there's some of the character, like some of you in that character. You have some of the.
So is Walter me? Is what you're asking?
I don't know if he's asking.
I don't know about that, but like I
explain. Yeah,
like
are you doing from his perspective?
You know what it is? I don't want to say like too much because I don't want it to be like revealing. But there's certain parts where I feel like okay, like there's a little bit of Will and Walter.
So I would say Walter is made up of me. It's made up of like people like my brothers, my best friends. It's made up of people in my life who I saw these little things, these attributes that made up this story. So there's one particular scene in the first book, The Purposeful Oliver Burke, that me and my friends went through. So like anyone who knows me and my friends, you know that like that was them. You know, so as you're reading the story, then you're starting to align things and you're starting to say, is the rest of this him? Like, is this a biography? Did this guy write about himself? But I didn't. But I did I didn't want to make it real. I'm not writing Marvel. I'm not writing the Avengers.
Right.
I'm writing like real stuff. So I want to write content that makes sense because it's real, because people are able to relate to it.
Yo, if y'all got any questions, y'all can ask him too. Just let me know. I'll ask him the question. Just pop it up on the screen. I'm gonna ask him.
Yeah.
All right.
As I was reading the book, I'm like, Walter, he's like a real life superhero.
Yeah.
He's like.
Yeah. And that's feedback I got too. And I think that may have been something I could have done better when writing that book. Is I didn't write enough faults into Walter, because and the reason for that was because when we get to the point where Walter and Oliver's story intersect, Walter has to be at rock bottom. So like ultimately you spend the first 3/4 of the book just going up, like the roller coaster that's going up, and then you start to go down. So like as you read, you're just hearing about all the good things he's doing, all the good things that are happening to him, and then chapter 18.
Yeah.
It also reminded me a little bit of what's that show? Mad Men. Like when I started reading it, it's like but the thing with Mad Men is like it's kind of boring. Like, like I don't know. I had a lot of friends that were like into Mad Men, but it's really boring because the guy like nothing bad happens to him.
Yeah.
So
I've never seen Mad Men though, but I know it's like the advertising whatever.
Yeah, he works for like an advertising company. Yeah. But it's like a period thing. It was back in the
60s.
Yeah, this the
60s. You know it? You watch it?
Okay.
I heard about it.
I feel like I'm out of the loop. I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's back in the 60s, but nothing really bad happens. Like there's a character that he's introduced later on in the show, and like he's like a mysterious character, and then he just kind of disappears after the episode. And I'm like, yo, that's that was the drama of the show. Why did you take him away?
That was all budget cuts. They just made him disappear.
So but like there's depth to the story. So. It kept me interested,
Yeah. I would say as you read, and a lot of the first half of the book is meant to just be character development, especially given that this is supposed to be like 3 novels worth of content. So like if you read the first half of the book, you're reading someone's story, you're reading someone's life, and like in some instances, depending on what type of reader you are, you're a Gemini. So if your attention needs to be had and captured early, then you may get to a point where you're like, chapter 3, like what's happening? Where's the action?
So the thing is, the reason why I said that, like saying because Roger's a Gemini too, so we both think alike. So when he told me it was good, I said I'm gonna read it. This thing told me it was good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So obviously, and the way you talk about it, you sound mad passionate about the book. So it's like I want to read it now.
Also, it's nice to see black people in that kind of light.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's another reason why I'm gonna read it too, because
And I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm a big believer in us being the authors of our own narrative.
Facts.
And we see so many stories, and we see a lot of the same stories where it's a lot of the same type of people in the same type of roles, and the people who come and look more like us, they're kind of ousted and they're outside the norm. And I didn't want to write the story like that. I wanted to write Walter to be like, some senior level executive of his advertising agency, and he just got this $10,000 check because he did something good. And because that's not the story you hear. The story you hear is like a young African American kid roaming the streets at night, potentially with a gang, potentially selling whatever. And like, I think given that we have the power in a sense, like I have the power to write whatever story I want, so I'm not going to write it that way because I don't want it to be remembered that way. I want it to be remembered this way. And actually it's funny you bring that up, because in this book there's 3 stories that they're kind of like flashbacks, and I wrote them to kind of touch upon social justice. So like if you read it, like it lightly touches upon things that actually happened in the real world. And the reason I did that was not to of course, like I want people to remember the things that happen. I don't ever want us to forget, because once you forget, then it's almost like we've accepted it, and I don't think it's right to accept it. But I want some of these characters' stories to be better. So like I don't want someone to remember the kid walking down the street with the hood on as the kid who was killed by a neighborhood watchman. And because sometimes the story changes, and like he was killed because he was a gang member or whatever. Why was he out past 9 p.m. and that like if you look at this cover, this kid got a hood and he's walking to church, and this is what I want you to remember. I don't want you to remember that other story. Like, we have the power. We have the power to influence our own stories, our own culture. We build so much that, we end up, and I think Jay-Z said it, but like, I think it applies to all of us, is we do so much building, but we end up giving it away because it's almost like we want to beg to be at a certain point. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it, it's 360, because the certain point we want to beg, they're always going to have the power, and they're going to give us as much power as they want to make sure that we're just close enough, but never there. But never there. Mm-hmm. So even with these two books, like and nothing, and I'm not saying this to blacklist myself, but I chose to self-publish these books, and like, so I funded everything, like the editing process and everything, because like I didn't necessarily want to beg a literary agent to do something I could do for myself.
I would say,
Mm-hmm. So like, I don't want anyone to tell me like, you can't go speak at this school because you're on this timeline. Like, if I want to go speak at this school in the inner city, I'm going to go speak at this school in the inner city, because that's the people I wrote the book for. Of course, I want everyone to read it and everyone can relate to it, but I wrote it for the people who I wrote it for, and I'm not going to beg people to read it.
That's a fact. That's inspirational right there itself, right there. So let's get to know some personal, what's your background? Like, where you from? Where your family from?
My family's from Ghana, actually.
Oh, so, Ghana. We want to go there.
Yeah, Ghana.
Uh-huh.
The year of the return, 2019.
Oh, yeah. My homegirl, shout out to my homegirl in Ghana. She took a picture in front of the Freedom Bridge or the Freedom Tower.
Nice.
Yeah, with the shirt with the real Q&A. Shout out to my people in Ghana.
Yeah.
Somebody said inspirational.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when's the last time you been to Ghana?
So embarrassed, you threw me on the spot. So I've never been to Ghana.
Oh.
Actually, I'm going to Ghana this year not for the year of the return, but this was, the first opportunity.
Wait. Tell me about the year of return. When is this year or is it 2020?
It's this year. This year. So, 400 years ago is when we as in our people were
forced
out of the country, and so if you're in Cape Coast, you'll be able to see as they saw it, the path that they took right before they boarded the ships, and they were gone. And this is like deemed the year of the return, because like we want to, the country has spent so much time over the last few years kind of building, especially around the holidays. So, this is the year where, we're at our strongest. And if you look at the holidays over the last few years, it's been kind of a gradual growth, a gradual like upslide. So I think this is the year that we really want to capitalize on the momentum. Well, and I say we, but like I'm proud to be Ghanaian, and I'm proud to have family still in Ghana, and being there is going to be unlike anything else, to be honest.
Was it Accra?
Yeah.
Yeah. My homegirl, she lived. She said, "Yo, you gotta come out here." I was like, "I'm gonna go."
Yeah.
So bad. Yo, Roger, he's talking about the year of return.
Yeah.
That sounds like I gotta go there. Like I need to go like tomorrow.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Like,
We gotta do this like now. Like, no, I'm serious. So you said it's only for the 2020 won't be the year of return no more, right?
So I don't know the parameters of it.
Don't worry about it. I'm gonna find out. You don't gotta be crazy. It's okay.
1619 is when the first slaves on record were.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, I got it now. So basically, it has to be within the year 2018.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, fine. Listen, man, we gotta make a jump. We gotta do it. I want to go.
Yeah.
I'm not even lying. So all you gotta do is get the chicken.
So it's literally the year everyone's going, and like then you come back to wherever you're from, and you just thrive. Because like just the momentum, the people you're around out there, it's gonna be like the Black Renaissance. Ultimately, it's gonna be a position where we're all kings. No one is different. No one is lesser than anyone else. And that was my boy JC, who's here too, and he's gonna be in Ghana also. So we're gonna build this thing together.
You going to Ghana? Actually, why you didn't tell us we going to Ghana, bro?
Did I spill something?
Yeah, you definitely did. He knew he was going to Ghana.
I think we had talked about it like before.
Oh, he done threw his head. He
like it was never confirmed. It was never confirmed. Like, I didn't know.
Ghana, bro.
My bad.
You mentioned Tanzania, but you didn't say nothing about Ghana. It's all good. I'll mess with you, bro. I don't take. You know not to take me serious. I'm playing. I want to go though. So like seriously. So how many brothers and sisters you got?
I got 2 brothers and I got 1 sister.
You the oldest, middle? What?
So I got an older brother than me, then I got my younger brother, and then baby sister.
Okay.
So there's 4 of us.
Yeah. So you're not against 4. You're in the middle, but you're not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I always consider myself to be in the middle because like the boys, it was just the 3 of us. So my older brother, me in the middle, and then my younger brother, and we're all like a year or so apart. So like we were all fairly close as we moved through grade school and whatever. And my sister, she's like outside, so there, even though it's 4 of us, but like it's always kind of been like me and my brothers because we've shared a room together. We at certain points we were in the same school at the same time, so we've all kind of been like, you know, the first one, the middle, and then the last boy.
Okay, cool. So, name any authors like who inspire you. Like, what authors inspire you?
Hussein Khalid is one. He wrote The Kite Runner, A Thousand Splendid Suns, And the Mountains Echoed. Those are a few books by him. I'm not gonna butcher her name, but she's a very powerful author. She wrote Americana, and like I really wish I could say her name, but it's long, and I don't want to mess it up.
We can look at it. Just tell us the title of the book again.
Americana. Yeah. So I read that book for the first time this year, and that was probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. So actually, what I'm reading right now, it's called The Darkest Child. So it's by Dolores Phillips. She only put 1 book out, and she passed, unfortunately, as she was writing her second book. And so she has about 4 chapters in this book of her new book. And so I was talking about Americana being one of the best books I've ever read. This is the best book I've ever read. So it talks about, I'm not going to promote for the book, but it talks about a time where, you know, post-slavery, just right before the schools began to get integrated, and there was a mother who had like 9 children, and this one girl who tells the story from her point of view, she was the darkest one, so her mother treated her differently than everyone else. And like one of her sisters was deaf, and her mother used to call her dumb, and like so her mother was like the devil in disguise. She lived in the house, but she also like enticed them with like, you can live in my house, like, oh, I love you, what do you mean? So if you read it, just the way she tells the story is amazing. So those are a few authors that I would say influenced me, because not because they can tell a good story, but like every chapter you read, it makes you want to be better, you know. The Kite Runner, I don't know if anyone's read that, but you know, that's a very powerful story. Americana is a very powerful story. There's another book I read called Homegoing, which is by Taraji Jones, I think, maybe. And that's actually a good book. So that tells 2 parallel stories from, and it started around the slave ships, around the slave times, but it tells one story about one person who essentially, she stayed in slavery, and every generation after, it was the result of the previous person. The other one, they were sold, they were sold to a white master in like London or something, and he didn't treat them like slaves, so he treated them good, and he ended up having a child with his slave, so it was a mixed child, and every generation after that, it showed the parallel stories about how their stories differed. And you go to one story, and they're living in a village with no running water, no electricity, and you see the next story, and they're in like boarding school in London, and you know, so I think the stories are good, because it's always good to kind of show 2 different stories, which is what I try to do with The Angels Are Flying Solo.
So, what's your next venture besides the books? Do you have any other things you want to do, or?
Yeah. So, one thing that's actually very close to my heart, I would say, is, you know, given that I live in Newark, New Jersey, so like I live around like around a lot of people who don't have guidance, and the guidance they have isn't the best. So, you know, I'm actually working on something with my brothers where we're putting together like a scholarship fund that we're looking to fund every year. And we're not asking for money, especially initially. We're trying to do this ourselves, but as we continue to grow and we continue to identify eligible, you know, individuals who could benefit from this, then we want to seek out support and not again beg for it, but we want to see who else wants to kind of make a difference. Because like I know, like at times I have like discretionary income that I end up spending like at Wawa when I could be, you know, giving it to someone who really needs it.
What the hell is Wawa?
Oh, so Wawa, what is it called in here? Wawa's like a gas station.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. My homegirl Amanda said about Wawa. She said, yeah, I went to Wawa yesterday because you live in Jersey.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is Wawa?
So Wawa, what's Wawa in New York?
It's like 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, okay, yeah,
Wawa.
they got those too. So we're trying to.
That sounds dope though.
Yeah, the scholarship fund and. Cause like we didn't grow up in the hood, to be honest.
You know, I know.
Yeah, you
I can tell.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that though.
Yeah, so like there's things that we had growing up that I know other people don't have. And being in Newark, I see it. I've interacted with people who they're a product of like the environment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like if I'm in a position to help and I try not to be greedy at least, but if I'm in a position to help, I'm gonna help.
Look, man, brothers like you inspire me to be better. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the hood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But my brother Gavin you remind me of my brother Gavin. Gavin is just like you. You talk very articulate. Mm-hmm. You pronunciate your words. You don't sound. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we need more of. We don't need more hoodlums and stuff like that. So
right.
I'm not tripping off none of that. You not being from the hood. You're actually trying to do for the hood, which I appreciate even more. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just be like, forget the hood. I'm just gonna do what I want to do and whatever.
Yeah.
But you actually trying to give back, which is positive, bro.
Right.
Don't downplay that. That's actually a good thing that you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I said, so just continue doing what you're doing. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, and I didn't grow up in the hood, but like, just being the observer that I am, and I see like the space around me, like, I see like I'm. It's obvious how different, the two paths can be, and I do want to be someone who changes the narrative for folks in the future, and I don't necessarily want to be in the limelight or whatever, but like. I want to put out a scholarship. I want to put out books that people can read, and then they read stories different. Like, I want people to be able to say, like, I want to be an author. Like, I don't maybe need to take the traditional route that other people have kind of told me I need to take by going to school and getting my master's in writing and doing that. Like, we have the internet. The internet was... like, that's its own university. You can build so much from just a Google search and YouTube, and I think we have the capacity, we have the capability to really build our own brands if you really invest the time, and so that's just something that I think I want to continue to inspire in others. It's just like there are no boundaries that are greater than our dreams and our visions.
Thanks. This guy's a good guest, man. Roger, this is a good little guest right here.
Yeah.
All right, just a good recommendation.
Man. Yeah,
I like this.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so give me your Instagram one more time.
Yeah.
Tell me they can get your book.
Instagram is reelqanda _. You can get the book on Amazon.com, or you can get it on my website, which is reelqanda.com. I really love these types of things. I really love just being able to interact with people about the book. It's super exciting now that I've released the second one, because when I released the first one, it was a conversation starter in a lot of regards. Could have conversations with people like, oh, you got a book? I'll read it. But now that I released the second one, I think it's a little bit more depth, because now we can start to tell the two stories and how they parallel and just the relevance to like our regular lives, because ultimately, like, we all have angels. We've all had angels in our lives, good and bad. It was people in your environment who either wanted to see you succeed or see you fall, and sometimes those people may not come off the way that you may think they are. The people who want to see you fall may try to perceive themselves as someone who want to see you succeed, and how you receive that information will determine where you end up. So I think like ultimately these types of conversations are important to me, but I can't have them every day, every second. So I put out content through my book, so people have an opportunity to experience it through that.
Great. So you was a wonderful guest today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys for having me.
I see you. We're probably going to talk about some other subjects real quick. You know what I'm saying? We want to say and talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so this is reelqanda, author of The Angels Are Flying So Low and The Purpose for Oliver Burke. You can find me on Instagram, reelqanda _WILLAPPIAH_ and you are watching The Real Q&A. Thank you.
Body! Freestyle.
Killed it.
Killed it. You gotta look to that because he just killed that.